Hello. Hello, Feral. Alright. Let's go, huh? Get on my sub. The sheer amount of subs that are being gifted during the subathon, probably. Alright. So, I can't remember what has exactly just happened. That we're back in Sholmes' suite here. So, we had the section with Sholmes and Mikotaba doing their Holmes and Watson routine on the ship where we found Judge Jigoku. Did the court just end, I think, right? That's probably what it was, right? The court took a recess. We'll probably get contextually what was happening again, but we're back at Sholmes' suite anyway on the 3rd of November at 8:07 p.m. evening time. Sholmes' suite. We've returned, my dear fellows. Oh, that's right. They were bringing Jigoku back, so the court had to take a recess so they could bring him back because he was on the boat. That's right. Welcome back to Britain, and thank you for your timely help. Think nothing of it. I believe you've had an even more wearing day than Mikotaba and I, no? You could say that. We were on the brink of defeating court earlier. So, this prosecutor Asugi had you on the ropes, did he? And he's your best friend, you say? Well, he's not really the man I knew in Japan anymore. Kazuma's changed. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I mean, it's incredible. To think that he'd even entertain the idea of acting as the Reaper's assassin. Well, nevertheless, you must introduce me. That's right, he was going on the ship to, like, assassinate Jigoku. So even acting like that is like... After all, I've only ever met the young man as a corpse. The very first time I met Sholmes. When all this started, almost a year ago now. Mr. Sholmes still hasn't told us the truth about what really happened back then. About the motivation for what he himself described as a great detective's lie. Now then, I must say, it's really quite a journey all the way to France. That's right, Sholmes like knew he wasn't dead or something. Didn't we figure that out? Well, it is another country, Mr. Sholmes. So, what news of Judge Jigoku? We took him to Scotland Yard. The investigating detectives there have a lot of questions for the man. For Professor Mikotaba. This must be quite a shock for him. Ah, yes. I picked this up at the telegraph office on our way home. I did get that, yeah. 3 levels ahead. What is it? Surely you haven't forgotten already. I put upon you for the matter only yesterday. You put upon me, Sholmes. I had to fill out your telegram to Japan and fit the bill as well. Oh, you've had a reply already? What was so urgent though, Mr. Sholmes? Such matters can wait until later. I'm far too hungry for an involved conversation at present. Well, that's good news, because supper is ready, everyone. Ah, and what a feast it is. If I were none the wiser, I think the trial were won already. Roast beef, kippers, stews, steak and kidney pie, Yorkshire pudding. Tomorrow could be a very long day, so eat up. In that case, I think I'll seat myself just here. This place appears to be the only one set with a helping of pheasant as well. Oh, sorry, Hurley, not there. Why are we not? Are we in set places this evening? Yes, and that place is for Susie Daddy. For me? That's right. I made it especially for you, Professor Mickey. I see. Oh, that's terribly kind of you. It's a shame, really. Oh, hey there, folks. Oh. What do you mean? Well, for a brief moment, I believed that Susie and I were half sisters. I mean, yeah. It would have been very sweet if it was. I don't know. Are they ruling out the possibility? I don't know. I think they kind of like, we were about to ask Sholmes, weren't we, about who Iris's dad actually is, and we got cut off, right? So we don't really know. This is a very sweet thought, though. Oh. Iris, do you mean... Yes, I know now. I overheard yesterday. I was just about to say I didn't think Iris was there when we were chatting about it. She listened in them. I secretly listened into the conversation you had after I tricked you all into thinking I had left. What? She heard the whole thing then. The misunderstanding arose because of that autopsy report from 10 years ago. But actually, it turned out that neither Dr. Wilson nor Professor Mikotaba are Iris' father. There's a third man? More men? Yes, about that, Iris. You know, I know. You can't tell me at the moment. Oh, Iris. The pheasant is by way of an apology. I'm sorry for eavesdropping. Oh, no, that's quite alright. Then why don't I get any apologetic pheasant? Just who is Iris' father? I suppose that's not something we'll be finding out today. So then, let us dine, while our largely pheasantless plates are still piping hot. Someone can get their man, so... A fine idea, Sholmes. It all looks absolutely delicious. Eat as much as you like. There are always seconds. This could be our last chance to ask questions before tomorrow's trial. About that telegram from Japan, and about Kazuma. I can't let this opportunity slip away. Casual Sholmes pose, huh? That's right, there's this weird component from the ship. And the evacuation notice as well. Hello, Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Surely it's abundantly clear. Man wanted his pheasant, eh? That I wasn't brooding over Mikotaba's refusal to share his pheasant with me. Nevertheless, I felt the need to withdraw from the social circle for a while and look on while with hungry eyes. Sorry, Hurley, but I cooked that pheasant especially for Susie's daddy. Even though I've played the role of father to you for far longer. Mr. Sholmes, can I discuss some things with you? Certainly, my dear fellow. I find myself quite in the mood for a spell of conversation. No doubt. You're hungry to learn more of my deep love of game. I can probably contain my curiosity on that one. You needn't look at me in that fashion. In what fashion? It seems that before we discuss the pheasant, we have some rather unpheasant matters to discuss. Fucking translators are having a lot of fun. Sholmes is one of my favorite characters of this era, for sure. The telegram from Japan. So, what was in the telegram you received back from Japan then? Ah, this. I thank my lucky stars it arrived in time. Record found as indicated. Duplicate follows. K. Asugi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. What? Those 4 names. We've come across that exact same list before. They came up in that unforgettable case last spring. What appeared to be a simple case of aggravated murder trying to be a masking monumental intrigue. There's Olive, right? Olive Green. A plot that involved the sale of British governmental secrets to foreign states. In exposing the means by which those secrets were being leaked, we deciphered a fragment of a message. That's right, the fucking... Yeah, there was like... Yeah, was it at the end of the very first game? That's right, we did find out there was like a piece of a coded message being sent out with yeah, these different names on. So Kazuma, Asa Shin, Gregson, and John Wilson. Yeah, I think that was the Morse code one, Emmy. Yeah, I think so. But we didn't find the names out until the case was over, and we never did get to the bottom of what they meant. All we knew was that the information had been sent by somebody in the British government to somebody in Japan. So, why are the names coming up again now? Yes. Where did the sender of your telegram discover them, Mr. Sholmes? I have here the message I had wired yesterday. Allow me to read it to you. Enter Judge Jigoku's office undetected and investigate telegram records. Expect to find communications from Britain dated 1 year ago. List of 4 names. Need by tomorrow. Naruhodo. I sent it to a detective I know who specializes in clandestine missions of this nature. He asked Inspector Hosonaga to undertake such an onerous task for you. Big Hosonaga, we haven't seen him in a while. So Judge Jigoku is the one... Yeah, he has a turtle on his head, yeah. So Judge Jigoku was the one who received the message from Britain. And in my name? I wonder what guise he opted for this time. Probably still wore the turtle on his head. My dear fellows, it was a matter of great urgency, you understand. Anyway, the list of names was found in Seishiro's office, as Sholmes predicted. So you mean that mysterious collection of names that was sent from Britain to Japan was... It was sent to Judge Jigoku. He was the intended recipient. I don't believe it. But it doesn't answer the question of what the list of names actually signifies. I did formulate a hypothesis about that. But without a shred of evidence, I couldn't possibly have shared it. Mr. Sholmes looks deadly serious for once. Telegram from Japan. A telegram from Inspector Hosonaga in Japan with details on the telegram he managed to locate by stealing into Judge Jigoku's office. Yeah, just the names, okay. Do we know what happened to Iris's mum? I don't believe so. No. I could be mistaken. We've been playing these games for a long period of time, but not to my knowledge. I feel like she died. I think so anyway. Kazuma's death. That tragedy we had to go through on the SS Buria. It was all for nothing. Kazuma wasn't dead at all. We were completely taken in by the lie you told us. Your great detective's lie. Everyone cares so much about her dad. Well, the whole reason that Evan put so much emphasis on her dad was that, you know, Iris has been fed this story about her dad, specifically. That, like, her dad was the one who went on adventures with Sholmes. Her dad has written all the stuff in the case in their apartment. So her dad has a whole mystery behind it. I took no pleasure in deceiving you. So whenever we first met Sholmes, he knew Kazuma wasn't dead. We found this out recently, that he was just like, he knew at that time that Kazuma was not deceased. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the cost. What? I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan. His remains, you mean? Surprised he was even able to deceive anyone ever. Precisely, Mr. Sato. Well, it's funny because when we saw him with Mikutaba last time, when they found Judge Jigoku on the ship, and he's really good. Excuse me. Precisely, Mr. Sato. And then, I made sure that somebody else was sent to Britain in his stead. Oh my, you mean... The arrangement between our two countries is already in place. One university student lawyer and one judicial assistant to be accompanied on a accommodated on a study tour. In other words, by arranging for someone else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Asogi, I would successfully prevent the man from arriving on our shores for several years at least. Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Kazuma coming to Britain? That's why you... Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue on the voyage to England? Was it him? The terms of his study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. Hosonaga, in the light of Mr. Asugi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. The voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. So, you manipulated me? I've often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend. I don't believe it. But if it was all contrived... I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her? The Russian lady, right? Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul in finding the foreign refuge she sought. Oh, she got away. Nice. And she was on the run. I seem to remember Miss Sato and I had some rather strong words for her. Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure. I wonder if she made it to America then. I'm afraid I simply cannot comprehend it. Why would you go to such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? Why be so determined to stop Kazuma-sama from reaching Britain? Is it because he was related to Genshin? The truth is, 12 months ago, there was already a very tangible omen of the impending tragedy, you see. Oh? An omen that, at this very moment in time, is close at hand. An omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago is close at hand? We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. Tell us, Sholmes! Tell us! Wait, no more options? Present the telegram, maybe? There was no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Jigoku's office that should be searched. So, you obviously knew that's where the list of names would be found. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. But we only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now. And only because they appeared as part of the top secret government communications that were leaked. That's true, yes. But at the time, you were unaware of the background. Yeah, I think that was the final case of the first game. I think so. Or at least one of the last ones, anyway. That's true, yes. But at the time, you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan. Around 6 months before that. Approximately this time last year, in fact. When you were both still in Japan. Huh? Oh, God. It really would be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others for intercepting state secrets, because after all, I'm perpetually eavesdropping on communications between the British and Japanese governments. You're perpetually doing what? How? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes, when he has designs on knowing it. This man's committing international espionage? Well, my Mr. Sholmes, what a fabulous line. Now, 1 month after that list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jigoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. Okay, so here's the start of the first game then. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. Are these like 4 targets or something? As it turned out, I was partly correct, and partly mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow. Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about these 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected. Give us the deets, Sholmes, give us the deets. The 4 names, here we go. As I said, when I learned of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names. Because, you see, there was someone else on the list, who I believe to be recently deceased. What? Who? A Shin, as it was transcribed in Japanese script. In actual fact, Miss Asa Shin. That was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes. Oh, I see. But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder, and she's the one who killed him. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed, and accordingly I became fearful for the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list. Kei Asogi and T. Gregson. Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself, but I determined it would be safest if young Asogi were to stay away from Britain. So that's why you went to such length to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Exactly. So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes? Oh yes. Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I had recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters. And the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. But then how did he turn into a killer? Who? Gregson? Or... Well, that's the thing. Gregson himself isn't killing anyone. Gregson's like providing information, which is still not great. He's not doing anything himself, but he's... Asogi? Kazuma's not a killer. Kazuma's dad was a killer. Genshin. The name on the list was Kazuma himself. So by this stage here, a year ago, Kazuma's dad's already long dead. The professor case was like a decade ago or something. Didn't he try and do Reaper business? So we found out last time that Kazuma... yeah, so Kazuma and Gregson went on the boat to kill Jugoki, but Kazuma said in the court case that it was never his intention. He was like gathering information or something like that. He was never going to do it. There's also the question of then of like, why is there a shard of his sword in the case? We don't know that yet. But Kazuma said that he had no intention of doing it. So, but like at the start of this stream, Rinosuke was like, you know, Kazuma's not the man I knew. Like even pretending to be the assassin of the Reaper is like unlike him. So it's still not good what he did. Like he's still like, you know, getting involved in it. His dad's first name was Genshin, like Genshin Impact. I've recounted many tales of about Asogi to him in my letters, and the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. So, Dr. Wilson is dead then? Oh no. I didn't know. Ah, poor Iris, man. Fuck's sake. Oh, Iris. I know he wasn't my daddy, but still. It's very sad. Well, that's right. She does know that it wasn't him now. But Iris' like, parentage is just like up in the air at the moment. Because she took a surname, right? That Iris took the surname Wilson after the John H. Wilson of the stories, really. But yeah, it was, yeah, she had this like envisionment of the name as her father. She never knew the man, but she had this like idea that that's the name of her dad. And I said she took the surname Wilson because of it. So I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. No. what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes. Doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis. A big hole, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, yes. You mean about Asa Shin, I presume? Oh, of course. Fucking Giselle Brett time. Swan lady. Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? Well, she wasn't killed then. She was killed later. She was in Japan, posing as a visiting student under the assumed name of Giselle Brett. I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow. But I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago, in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. Ah! And upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I'd formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy. What? Topsy? Topsy hypothesis. What do you mean when you say your hypothesis was turned topsy, Mr. Sholmes? I had believed all 4 names on the list to be the names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Asa Shin was a killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed. And it would seem that Miss Shin was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson. Her visiting student status being merely a front. Ah. Which would of course explain why no motive could be determined for her actions. So the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of an assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, fresh consideration of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you? There is another among the 4. Gregson, right? Who subsequently became a visiting student. Wait, you mean... But of course, a name you know only too well. You mean... Kazuma? Oh! He did say in court earlier today. Yes. On 31st of October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. We knew this already. We knew this from last time, that Kazuma went with Gregson on the boat to act as the assassin for Judge Jigoku, but he said he wasn't going to do it. So. And the mission was the assassination of the Mark. You call me? No, Kazuma explained this. We knew he did this. He said he went with Gregson to be the assassin, but he never did it. He said he wasn't going to do it, and he didn't do it. There is a bullet hole in Judge Jigoku's boat room. There is a shard of Kazuma's sword in the case that belonged to Gregson. So there's a lot of mysteries. But we already knew that Kazuma said he went with Gregson on the boat. What if he killed Gregson? We don't know. No. Yeah. There's still a lot of unknowns here that's going to start unraveling as we go. Young Mr. Asugi accepted that mission a year ago now. Surely not. A year ago? Fuck, that was recent. In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say. Detailing an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Kazuma possibly have gotten involved in something like that? Jesus, assassin exchange. Let's assume that we have 2 parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. Those 2 parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets. That would then be an assassin exchange. So, to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Japan, where she kills her target. And then, the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain, in order to eliminate his target. It certainly does sound like an exchange. Yeesh. But what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruhodo, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction. thanks to diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. That's right, she did get away with that one. She was killed later in that one beach house or whatever, but she got away from that first case. So Kazuma took this a year ago, huh? Like, oh, blurry again. He took this like before the first game began, basically. Who killed her again? I can't remember. She was killed in a beach house. She was like stabbed through the bamboo or something. I would just worry about looking it up in case I see something. Oh yes. Such jurisdiction to be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our two countries. So the fact that it was brought into play suggests intervention at the very highest levels. Yeah, there's some governmental shit going on here. Highest levels. I still think Strongheart is in on something. These murders were two sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive, but by contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated. Yet, in truth, the assassins were complicit in one singular, devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot. But wait a minute, Sholmes. If this telegram really is describing the exchange of assassins as you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer's target was never Seishiro Jigoku at all. Yeah, it was Gregson. It would mean Asuki's target was actually Inspector Gregson. What? Kazuma was here for Gregson? So Judge Jigoku wasn't actually the mark? Yes, that's exactly what it would mean. Yeah, because it's like the killer name and then the target underneath it on the telegram. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe. Mr. Sholmes. I told him of my fears and implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position. I think I mentioned this before, but if you look on the cover art of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, Gregson's like turning away from the cover. He's not looking forward, which is obviously like doesn't mean anything if you look at it initially, but if you look at it, you know, knowing what happens. Yeah, Gregson was meant to go to France, I think, wasn't he, with Gina? Obviously, with the young pickpocket in tow. Yep. Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention that to us at the Great Exhibition. That he'd be transferring to the Paris police and taking Gina with him. Yep. But without information, without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last. This is too much to take in. Yeesh. Alright everyone, that's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time. Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I should make my way back to my hotel room now. This has certainly been a night to remember. It is a little bit sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Oh man, don't have him with that so. Because then Susie would have been my big sister. Sorry, Iris. I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Were you? What if somebody like me would be worthy? I would be delighted to become your sister. What? Really? Oh yes, without question. So, you'll teach me all the ways you know to throw Runo to the floor? Yes, yes, of course. It'll be my pleasure. You don't have to agree quite so readily. Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's going to be my big sister, you could be my big brother if you want, Runo. Huh? I mean, yes, of course. If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. We must always be mindful of feelings. I've raised you so well. guess being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally. The fucking Iris takedown now. Right, I'm going to work extra hard for tomorrow now. Because for my big brother and sister. What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what? Hehe. You'll just have to wait and see. Oh. Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. Oh, Jesus. No pressure. So, the overnight break in the trial's proceedings became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths whilst posing new conundrums. That list of 4 names on the telegram in Judge Jigoku's office, and the extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend had somehow become involved. I felt as though I had been plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt sure I would see the light again soon. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me. Fucking like poke at the emotions. Trial part 2. 4th of November, 9:30 AM. The Old Bailey courtroom. Zeke's Kazuma, Lord Strongheart. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice, and the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion, that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve, yes. That's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire. The defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asugi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? But after he admitted to going with Gregson, he has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma. Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. The payload. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume. Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Barak van Zieks. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asugi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. At last, then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get the truth. Come on, Rinosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. I think this is well, we're in the final adventure. I imagine this is the final trial, yeah. Who knows how long it'll take? It's probably quite long, but we're in the final stretch, yeah. None of that, I don't think. I think we might end it normally today. Maybe a little bit longer. And then we'll see tomorrow. That's right, we did the really long one, didn't we, to end the first game? That was a 2 AM one. That was good. It was like a 5-hour stream or something on that. She was good, huh? Witness. State your name and occupation for the court. We were playing Kena Bridge of Souls at that time, right? Or Bridge of Spirits, whatever it was called, because I remember talking about the really long stream when we were swimming in a pool. Ah. So, it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena. I did what was necessary. Ha 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 ha. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take that tome with me, I must say. He was all their judges back in Japan, so. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am of course fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. Ah! It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. Don't call me that. You acquitted me yourself. And now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes. And full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. Hey, took a boat. And explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. Oh, I said adequate. My decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. I don't know about that one, Chief. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon? For some reason in my head now, like, it's Jigoku and, like, Strongheart who exchanged the... Who did the assassin exchange? That's what I'm wondering. Didn't they meet? Rinosuke and Jigoku? Yeah, they know each other. Yeah. Cause he was the judge back in Japan. When Rinosuke was accused of murder. Gregson and Jigoku. No, not that we know. Don't think so. Jigoku only got to Japan when Gregson was killed, I think. And Gregson was already dead. We never saw them meet anyway. No. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. And you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the end. The very end, too, sorry. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku is involved in this case? It's gotta be the list of names, but we'll save just in case.
Take that!
This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: Kei Asugi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? This man's going to break the stand in this case. So, I don't know if anyone remembers. He was arrested during the... during the Professor case. He came in to testify either against or for Genshin. And he got so angry that he broke the stand. So I bet he's going to break a stand again in this one. He's going to fucking punch through it or something like that. Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. Kei Asugi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. There she is. Huh? The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asugi, whose victim was the British police inspector Tobias Gregson. Kei Asugi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. I think Strongheart's in on it. That's been my like sneaking feeling for a while now. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? He keeps talking about like at the highest level, and he's like basically in charge of Britain's like law, basically. Excuse me. The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku? What's this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you had accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. Ugh. Deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Shigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. Ha 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 ha. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. Alright, let's see what we get here. The assassin exchange. It's true that Kazuma Asugi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it. So clearly I can't be involved. So you admit it then? As this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavour at the highest levels. Not something I can discuss here. Shit. Yeesh. That's true then. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling. Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Asugi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Well, we know Gregson was friendly with Van Zieks, right? Maybe that's why. We have the photo, don't we, of Gregson and the Van Ziek brothers. We know they were, like, very friendly with each other. There's Barak and then Clint on the left. Kazuma-sama? Judge Shigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. You're not going to do that. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk, because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. Nah, bullshit. No, he didn't. Well, we assume that anyway. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak Van Zieks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. We gotta free our boy. Hey, free Barak. Hashtag free Barak. Do you think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian, right? I have to know her before. Dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. It was fucking you bastard. Hey, I knew it was you. I know it's you. Present tense. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it's not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. Hey, Charlie. Good evening. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Okay, so only stuff around Gregson then. Okay. Where's the other judge? Scotland? Oh. Taking a break? So it's true that Kazuma was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago. Right.
Hold it!
Present. Dead? Oh god, maybe. A year ago, when Kazuma was still in Japan then. Correct. It was at the examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. I'll never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I'd consider traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Jesus. Surely not. I thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. Fuck. You blackmailed him? No. You agreed to it just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but assassination? The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time. An agreement to send a student from each country to the others to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But, behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. This is some fucking anime shit thing, which is very fitting because it's basically an anime game, like. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot there and then? Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. Put that one in the back pocket for later. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jigoku. As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked Asugi and explained the details of the plan to him. Okay, so nothing new from that. Now, the target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour, okay?
Hold it!
Why Kazuma? Why did you pick him as the assassin? He had a sword? I don't know. He was the most capable of all the applicants. And in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer. I'm assuming Judge Jigoku also knew that Kazuma was Genshin's son. So, he probably used that as well. It was all ultimately for that one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Asugi. There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. Be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin, or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Asugi. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? I have no idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea, really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you? Judge Jigoku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time. The defense really ought to catch up. With what? With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. Shut up, trying to worm your way out, Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Asugi. What to say next? However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission.
Hold it!
Okay. I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Kazuma's passage to Britain in January. The awful tragedy that took place on the steamship. Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I'd placed on the ship to accompany the assassin. Obviously, Kazuma didn't actually die at all, but he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission. Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible, simply because that black-clad young student over there had already put himself forward as Asugi's replacement. Oh, he fucked it. Let's go. And there was no way to stop him from reaching Britain. My hands were completely tied. So Mr. Sholmes' strategy worked perfectly. He predicted everything that would happen. Months later, my memory returned. But I'd never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway. So you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it? I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than of taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to in order to get myself here to Britain. This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details relating to his relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder. In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I had no connection to the man or his death. And you have some means of substantiating this plea? What do I say next? On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. Okay. Was that chicken stroganoff?
Hold it!
Outside your cabin in the first class area of the SS Grouse, you mean? Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators have taken to posting a crewman outside every first class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night, I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin. There he is, big chicken, huh? At that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin while we waited for Judge Jigoku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. So Gregson was there to kill Jigoku. Kazuma was there to kill Jigoku that Gregson believed, but Kazuma was actually there to kill Gregson, as Jigoku believed. And he didn't either. He's just like, nah. Well, we don't know. Gregson did die. But the two people who were there that weren't Kazuma thought Kazuma was there to kill the other, basically. So the crewman let two potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding? Not the most convincing of sentries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. And then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes. He glared at me as I walked past. You see, that proves it. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. How does he know Gregson was shot? Well, there's also the bullet hole in his wall, right? So he does know there was a shot fired, because he covered the bullet hole with the rules or whatever. But he seems to know Gregson was shot, which is a little
Hold it!
Press it anyway. The crewman who was standing directly outside your cabin door, you mean? That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grin expression on his face. He didn't once move from that spot. To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. And he's also lying saying that there wasn't a gunshot. But we know that he knows there was a gunshot. And we also know that he shouldn't know that Gregson was shot, so it's just like the whole thing's fucked, huh? To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as it happens, he's a vital witness now. Oh, we're gonna see chicken again, huh? There's no doubt that Gregson was killed by a gunshot. Oh, well. Kazuma's just revealed it, huh? Maybe he didn't know that. And it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard that. But wait, what about the ship's enormous steam engines? The noise of them could have drowned out the sound of the gun being fired. Sadly, young judicial assistant, that won't wash. Oh. You will recall that my cabin was in the first class area of the ship, which is also, of course, the quietest. Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything like steerage where the judicial assistants go. Shut the fuck up. Why is he so rude all of a sudden to Sasato, specifically? That's like the second time he sniped at her. Wait, I didn't mean... But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Judge Jigoki. Oh shit. All the cards in my hand are on the table now. So I've got fucking nothing. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there. What's that? A bullet hole? Oh yes. You're talking about what the detective uncovered in the wall yesterday, I presume. That was obviously a rotten panel eaten out by woodworm. No doubt he didn't find an actual bullet. Ah shit, he's right. Ugh. That's the hole in this argument. Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewman to be brought back to Britain with me. Oh, no chicken. But obviously, if a gun had been fired in my cabin on the night in question, as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot and would never have made it to Britain in the first place. Very true. The witness's logic is sound. Since no gunshot was heard from the witness's cabin on the night in question, we must assume that the witness is telling the truth. I'm glad you've seen sense, my lord. I know Kazuma's already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by somebody else is still a real shock. It's unforgivable. Using Kazuma-sama's feelings to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan. But I think Kazuma manipulated Judge Jigoku too. He completely double-crossed him. Oh dear. It's hard not to see that as a stroke of brilliance on Kazuma-sama's part. One way or another though, Gregson ended up dead. I really think that the murder must have happened aboard that steamship. And so you mean Judge Jigoku must be lying? I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment, but you must destroy him, Mr. Naruhodo. Let's go. Okay. So now it's time to pick apart everything he said and present an evidence against something. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it. Wasn't there an evacuation drill on that night as well? Don't we have a poster that there was an evacuation? Yeah, this one. Yeah. At 10 PM for 20 minutes, say? Right, chat. Big brain. Hi, let's go.
Objection!
Fucking got you, bastard. Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. Yeah, everyone would have left because it was like all parties, really, right? What? Where did you get that? We got it from your bin, you bastard. It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 PM, and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Gryce were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts? And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, You had ample opportunity to commit the crime. Ugh!
Objection.
A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. Just in case. Seeing final is quite sad. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin on the 31st of October? The pocket watch? No, that wouldn't indicate that it was in the cabin, right? What is this? That's a button, isn't it? You see these little things all over the place, don't you? It's a part on the top of a pocket watch that you... Oh, that's what it is! I didn't recognize it because it looks so fucking big. It's the part of Gregson's pocket watch. Oh, right. Okay. I thought it was a fucking handle or something. It's so... I thought it was like this size. It's called the crown, I believe. A watch would be quite useless without one. Crown. Like what sits on top of a monarch's head? That's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually... Yes, Mr. Naruhodo? If this is a crown, I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here somewhere with a very bare head. If by monarch mean a pocket watch, then I'm quite sure you have. Yeah. It's from Gregson's pocket watch, which is missing that piece, right? Yeah, it's gone, right? At the top. It's gonna be the crown, right?
Take that!
Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch? I fucking see that in there, like... He fucking enhancing his eyes, huh? A pocket watch. And if you'll observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. Grr. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill in the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? I can nail you down, you bugger.
Objection!
Oh, Kazuma. Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But, rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. But, sorry? Spat my screen a little bit there. If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. Top 10 anime betrayals, huh? Judge Jigoku, huh? I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. What actually happened that night? Prior to renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. The events in the cabin. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I took care of him with a Nippon Seo throw, though. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London. Nippon Seo. A common jujutsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. I have no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. But if this testimony holds, Judge Shigoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has the right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. Get the fuck out of here, eh? In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, let's pick this shit apart. Alright. So we had a guest waiting when we returned after finishing his evening meal in the dining room.
Hold it!
Okay. Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean? Apparently, Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. That's right, Mr. Vigil had it. Yeah. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. But the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung across his waist. You mean, me? Who else? Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off alarm bells in the guard's head. The point is I left the cabin before its occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back at my cabin. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion? That's right. None whatsoever. Okay. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. We do have a gun, right? Here. The murder weapon. We don't really know who it belongs to, I don't think. But we do have a gun. It was found, like, near Gregson's body. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes. Though at the time, I didn't know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose. That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. But I'd never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in all my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there was no time to call for the help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself. Okay, not a lot there either. I soon took care of him with a Nippon Seoi throw, though. He couldn't wait to run away after that.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun? That was a very brave move, wasn't it? Ha 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 ha. My Ippon Seoi is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it? Hmm? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. For chickens getting dragged then. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ippon Seoi throw. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder.
Hold it!
Okay. The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. Ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? Hmm? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, isn't it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Shit, we don't have any evidence of the gunshot in the bullet hole. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin. The inspector was clearly killed, having returned to Britain because his body was found in London.
Hold it!
Press everything, just get as much information as we can. But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling. Maybe indict us too. What? Oh, he's already addicted us, like, but you know, more so. If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have got back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at that same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then, obviously the culprit must have moved the body. Oh, exactly. Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? In your arms, yes. In some sort of frozen box? Maybe not? Well, yes, that's true, but all passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels. No. Passenger luggage, not stuff from the ship, right? Well, I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hard as query it as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Oh, let's kill that idea then. But perhaps not, Mr. Sato. We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Fair? Yes, that's true. So, transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I thought I ought to alter my testimony. With your consent, of course, my lord. Ah, something else we can push and prod, huh? I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. There's no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to Britain. Do we have anything in evidence? I mean, he's a big man. I go press this as well. The fucking case he brought with him? No way, huh? I knew this fucking photo was gonna be important, huh? Is there a fucking body in that? Don't tell me Gregson's body was in that box, huh? That's so fucking grim, huh? Because he himself was able to get inside it. Disaster, huh? Oh no. Do you reckon I can present this photo as evidence? What? See, I don't remember when this photo was taken. Like, was it immediate? Or was it after we'd seen Gregson? Like, it's disgusting if Gregson's in the box at the time of this photo. It's still bad if he was in it at some stage. I think Gregson, maybe not at the time of this photo, because I can't remember exactly when it was taken. Like, if we'd found the body by then or not. I think Gregson was in that box. Gregson's body was in that box. Because that's where he hid from Sholmes. I'm going to present this photo. I think this photo is where he was. And we also know that the first class passengers got ice, remember? He had ice in his drink. So was he putting ice in the box to preserve the body? Right, they made a point about his drink when we saw it in the cabin. I'm gonna present the photo against this and we'll see if it's true. Right, if the music stops, it doesn't always stop, right? But I think the music might stop.
Objection!
Fuck, man, he's in the box. That's so awful. Ah, that's so grim. There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. Oh god, that's so awful, huh? We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. I forgot I even said that. Was this before we even met? Found Gregson's body? Was Gregson in there? This scene gets contextually worse if this was before or after we found Gregson's body, and I can't remember which happens first. I think it's before. I can't remember. Ugh. We'll probably soon find out, like, what the characters tell us, but, like, yeah. Well, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took a rather lot of time. I must say, I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? Ah, I knew you were jealous. Ha ha ha. Disgusting, huh? Went from Sholmes to here? Oh, no, I mean... No, so the scene where we met them two at the hotel was somewhere towards the start of this adventure. But I can't remember if that scene, where we met them at the hotel with their luggage and took the photo, if that was before we found Gregson's body. So, like, the main thing I'm wondering is, in the photo that we took with them, is Gregson's body in that box in the photo, or is it already at the crime scene? That's what I don't know. Wasn't the redheaded scene then the hotel? Jesus, I can't remember. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku. It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact. You have a corpse inside. Mr. Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting... I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel... Yep, it was first. The body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Oh god, man, this is fucking terrible. Order, order, order in court. I'm skeptical, Counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. Well, we know that Jigoku himself hid inside it. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? That's like some fucking Junji Ito shit time. That's awful. That's so terrible. But inside his trunk, how horrifying. And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gorey, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. So stored there for a while, then put in the box. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages. And the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotaba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku. However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. That's really grim, huh? Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. He's not denying it. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Jigoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. Kazuma. As the accused, Barak Van Zieks shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time. Oh, good night, Noodle. See you later. Maybe a little bit of odd for you. See you later. The defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Does it? Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you had better explain yourself to the court, don't you? Fuck. Ugh. The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim, right? What contradicts that he didn't die instantly? He didn't die instantly. In this, was it? This does say instant death, actually. Prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street, but something indicates that he wasn't. Bum 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 bum. What do we have here? Letter of introduction, the dismissal notice, the photo, the candles. Which I think are basically done. The policeman figure. So that's what he uses to wind his... to twist up his pocket watch. The wig hasn't really been in evidence yet. Oh no, we did. We used it as evidence to show that he was investigating the Redhead League. That's right. Yeah, resulting in instant death. Was the gun ever fired? Do we know that? So this is the type of revolver that's standard issue for members of the judiciary then. Yes, and when I asked about whether records are kept about who they're issued to, I was told that for the past 5 years they've been engraved with a unique serial number. Oh, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun. Which tells us that it must have been issued longer ago than that. Okay, this is an old gun. Okay. Nothing else here? Okay. It's an old gun then, older than 5 years. What do we have that shows that Gregson didn't die instantly? Is it the fact that he's curled up? If he died instantly, he wouldn't curl up, right? Does that make sense? Is that like... I feel like if he died instantly, you wouldn't be able to curl up. I think it's the fact of the photo.
Take that!
Yeah, there you go. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. We're on fire tonight, huh? If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. Yeah, he was placed like that. Yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. He could have easily have adopted that fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jigoku, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Ugh! Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Because it was placed like that. Let's go. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting... The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor. Oh, that's why it was curled up in the case. Oh, yes, okay. That's the way it was curled up. From the inside of a large travel trunk. You're quite right. The shape of the body. It looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Poor man, huh? Judge Jigoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ugh. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Jigoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that allow me to. At this moment, you're not a government minister. You're a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Order, order. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it? Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Asugi? What? Very well. I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. He's not admitting he killed him, though. That's the thing. Inside my trunk. Exactly, as postulated by the defense. What? You... Dear God, outrageous. So it was you. You admit to Inspector Gregson's No, I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Yeah, he's not admitting to the murder. Of the killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. Oh, he's pinning it on Kazuma now. And moreover, he had already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Oh. That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Asugi. I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth, Prosecutor Kazuma Asugi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. We do still have the case of the shard of Kazuma's sword in Gregson's case, but we don't really know what that's from yet. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Asugi. I kind of want to believe Kazuma that he didn't do it. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku, or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asugi is... Did Kazuma have a gun? I'm going to say it's not possible. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that the logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asugi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asugi's involvement? Is it the fact that the gun was really old? Yeah, there's still the slash up the side of the trunk. It's either the gun or showing the sword.
Take that!
I think it's maybe the gun. You're making the evidence weep here, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Sorry? Every piece of evidence has a role to play in arriving at the truth. This is the wrong one, right? They're not playthings you can toss around the courtroom for entertainment. Shit. Never mind the evidence. You're about to make me weep, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I can't upset Susato-san or I'll end up being upset too. No member of the crew was on sentry duty outside the first-class cabin nearly all the time. So as long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. And that very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed. So Kazuma wasn't there then, right? So where was Kazuma? That's right. So Kazuma was off the ship before 10, right? So as long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. Not very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed. Do we have evidence that Kazuma was somewhere else? Shard of the sword. Yeah, the slash across it. And then inside it's the shard. The blade shard with this passport. Tip of Karama. So this is how it was broken. Kazuma's swordsmanship is second to none. I can't believe he'd misjudge it like that. Clearly he wasn't in his right mind. He didn't have full control of the power in his stroke. Too distracted by malicious thoughts, perhaps. Well, that wouldn't be surprising. After all, he was on an assassination mission. Right, it was between 10 and all crew for 20 minutes. So Kazuma says he left early, didn't he? I feel like Kazuma said he was not in the cabin when Jigoku got back. It demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asugi's involvement. Is it just Karama? Like the existence of Karama? Karama, the great blade. It's such a thing of beauty, I want to gaze on it for hours. The missing sword tip. tip of the great sword. Broken. Such a shame. It's been so meticulously cared for over the years. I can almost hear Karma's sobs. Kazuma must have really taken a swing for that to happen. Yeah, either Kazuma was in his right mind or someone else did it who's not as skilled as him. It might be just true that Kazuma doesn't use guns.
Take that!
No. No, well, no. Okay. Do we have any sort of alibi for Kazuma? No. I don't think so. It's not the gun. Is it the case and the really bad, like, weapon swing in it?
Take that!
Nope, okay. Alright. Time for another... Think. So this was the... when they came here. SS Grice for 701. So this is the one they came here on, the SS Grice, yeah. Okay. Allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Kazuma's involvement. Or Gregson, huh? That's Genshin's will. Passport. Oh, it's the evacuation notice, right? Because Kazuma would have had to have gotten off before the ship could have taken off, right? Because he wasn't on the boat. It's probably the evacuation drill, I think.
Take that!
Yeah, there you go. This itinerary for the crew members of the SS Grice, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Shigoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly become much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Yep. Kazuma was gone. Ugh. Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asugi stated in yesterday's proceedings, I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asugi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. Ugh. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and... No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. Ugh, no, There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer, as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. You're gonna break it, I think, yeah. That's what really happened, isn't it? Seishiro Jigoku. It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Ah! It's over. My life is over. Eesh. A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that you decided to recruit Mr. Asugi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch their replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at that time, in Kazuma's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume. That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. And made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? I've also suspected that Strongheart is involved in the Reaper organization, so... But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. So... That means that the assassin exchange was... It was all planned by the Reaper. I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. The Reaper, there it is. And I did the stupid Reaper voice earlier, so yeah. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but Moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student, which explains why it doesn't have the serial number. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? And the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grice. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up to deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered at for their evacuation drill. So, before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. Yeah, it's Mr. Vigil. Ah. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit. So I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. That must have been just after we took this photograph at the hotel then. So yeah, so this, and then he went and dropped the body off, yeah. That's what I was kind of suspecting. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. Why doesn't he just expose the British counterpart considering his life is over? I think it's something they're trying to maintain the relationship, aren't they, between Britain and Japan? If it's my guess is it's male Strongheart, and he doesn't want to. Maybe he doesn't want to out Strongheart, so like if he goes to prison, he'll have like more in his corner or something like that. That's my guess. It's been my guess for a while. Well, maybe not the counterpart, but that the leader of the Reaper organization was Strongheart, which means Strongheart also organized the assassin exchange, if it is him. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Yeah, it was Venus. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there and then. So I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case. So I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than I would have otherwise. Yeah, so all the witnesses said they saw a person go in with a red hairpiece and we assumed it was Gregson. So now we know it was Jigoku. The hairpiece was found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at around 5:15. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged this so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. There was Van Zeeks went in first round. Except at the last moment I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. Ah! I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. There's no witness stand. I've heard enough. we've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? I think he's going to tell us. Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough! I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found guilty. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Shit. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. You're free, Van Zieks. Let's go. Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Is something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. This motherfucker's trying to avoid the point. The true identity. It's fucking you bastard. I know it is. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. Okay. However, insofar as the incident indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication. Fucking couldn't read there. I hereby declare the defendant, Barak Van Zieks.
Objection!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore, it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Barak Van Zieks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. He's still out for the stuff for his dad. Right? Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asugi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Is he trying to imply that Barak is the British counterpart? Into this sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is, who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. Yep, I agree. As we've already established, the Reaper himself... well, certainly that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Barak van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey. And furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. But... what? Ugh. Order, order, order! The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery council. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoki by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. We back at it. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zieks, I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time I've endured the weight of that implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous, and Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he thought himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. Then that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. The Reaper and the assassin exchange. Next time. I get you with a stinger, huh? Ah, got you, you bastard. I mean, maybe... I guess we'll see how things go tomorrow. Maybe we'll do a longer one. And we'll see. Who knows, really. Honkshu. Honkshu. We'll pick this up tomorrow. We're missing Wednesday stream this week, I think. But thankfully our Ace Attorney streams are unaffected, so we'll get all the juicy deets. So we'll continue tomorrow. Yeah, they come around and see what happens. I'm very excited to find out as we go. For Gregson though, very, very grim. Some grim revelations today. But it's time to tackle the Reaper once and for all. Let's go. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Maybe a big long stream to finish it, who knows. We'll see. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.